Somewhere around the year 170, on the frozen banks of the River Gran, a man sat alone in a military tent, writing by lamplight. Outside, a plague was devouring his empire. His soldiers were dying, not from the enemy, but from a disease no one could name. And this man, the most powerful human being on the planet, opened a notebook and wrote a single line to himself. You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. He was not writing a book. He was not writing for an audience. He was writing to survive. And his name was Marcus Aurelius. And the private journal Marcus Aurelius kept during those years, a journal never meant to be read by anyone, would become one of the most influential books in human history, and we know it as Meditations. Today, most people remember him as a marble bust, a calm, wise emperor carved in stone. Philosophy of Stoicism presents him as the model of inner peace, a man who mastered his emotions and ruled with wisdom. And this is only half the story, because the real Marcus Aurelius was not calm. He was holding himself together, and the distance between those two things is where his real wisdom lives. Marcus never chose to be emperor. He was born Marcus Annius Verus, a quiet, bookish boy in a wealthy Roman family. At the age of 6, Emperor Hadrian noticed something in him. By 17, he was adopted by the next emperor, Antoninus Pius, and groomed for a throne he never asked for. According to the historian Cassius Dio, young Marcus showed such seriousness that even as a child, he had to be reminded to play. His tutors noted that he preferred philosophy over power and books over politics. Marcus himself later wrote that he was grateful to the gods that I did not make more progress in rhetoric, poetry, and other studies which might have absorbed me, had I felt that I was making progress in them. He wanted to be a philosopher. Instead, he became the ruler of the largest empire the world had ever seen. And then life came for him. Philosophy of Stoicism teaches that we do not control what happens to us, only how we respond. Marcus Aurelius did not learn this from books. He learned it from loss. Marcus and his wife, Faustina, had at least 13 children. 8 of them did not survive childhood. Imagine writing the words, "Do not act as if you had 10,000 years to live," while you are burying your 4th child. Imagine writing, "Loss is nothing else but change," while watching an infant die in your arms. This is what separates Marcus from every other philosopher in history. Seneca wrote about grief from a place of comfort. Epictetus taught about hardship as a former enslaved person. But Marcus wrote about suffering while he was in the middle of it. As an emperor who could not stop, retreat, and grieve in peace, the empire needed him. And in his private journal, Meditations, you can feel it. When you have lost one of those dearest to you, Seneca once wrote, "To suffer endless grief is foolish indulgence, to suffer none in human hardness." The best middle course between devotion and reason is to feel a sense of loss and to subdue it. Marcus lived in that middle course every single day. However, the losses did not stop with his children. In the year 165, Marcus' soldiers, returning from a military campaign in the east, brought something back with them, a disease that would later be called the Antonine Plague. It swept through the empire for 15 years. Estimates suggest it took between 5 and 10 million lives, and at its peak, 2,000 people were dying every day in Rome alone. Marcus Aurelius did not flee. He did not hide behind palace walls. According to Donald Robertson, who traced Marcus's actions during this period, the emperor stayed in Rome, personally oversaw relief efforts, and made a decision that revealed everything about his character. The empire was running out of money. The wars on the northern frontier were draining the treasury, and the plague had devastated tax revenue. Marcus had a choice: raise taxes on a suffering population, or find another way. He chose another way. Marcus Aurelius held a public auction of imperial possessions. He sold gold goblets, crystal cups, silk robes, his wife's jewelry, even paintings from the imperial palace. The most powerful man on earth sold his own furniture rather than burden his people. And in his journal, during those same years, Marcus wrote, "How unfortunate I am that this has happened to me." Not at all. Rather, how fortunate I am that although this has happened to me, I am still unhurt, neither broken by the present nor dreading what is to come. There is one more loss that we must talk about, because it is the one that haunts the story of Marcus Aurelius more than any other. His son, Commodus. Marcus spent his entire life trying to live by philosophy, kindness, duty, self-discipline, service, and his only surviving son grew into the opposite of everything Marcus believed. Commodus was cruel, vain, and violent. He would eventually rename Rome after himself, fight as a gladiator in the arena, and become one of the worst emperors in Roman history. Marcus knew. According to Cassius Dio, Marcus was aware of his son's nature, and yet he could not bring himself to disinherit him. Whether this was a father's blind love or a political calculation, we do not know. What we do know is that Marcus watched his life's work, both as a philosopher and as an emperor, begin to unravel in his own son. And still, he kept writing in his journal, "The character of those things you often think about will be the character of your understanding, for the mind is dyed by its thoughts." This brings us to the heart of what makes meditations so extraordinary. Marcus Aurelius never intended for anyone to read it. There is no introduction, no dedication, no audience. The original title, if it had one, was simply "To Himself." These were reminders, corrections, a man arguing with his own weakness at 3 a.m. You are going to pass away at any minute, and yet you still are not simple and straightforward, says Marcus Aurelius in his journal. That is not a lesson for a student. That is Marcus scolding Marcus. How much trouble he avoids by not looking to see what his neighbor does or thinks, by looking only to what he does himself. That is Marcus reminding himself again of something he keeps forgetting. When you read Meditations with this understanding, every line changes. This is not a wise man dispensing advice. This is a grieving father, a lonely emperor, a man watching a plague consume his world, and choosing again and again to find something worth holding on to. Seneca once wrote, "Believe me, a great part of those we have loved remains with us, even if some accident has taken them away. Bygone time belongs to us, nor is anything stored more securely than what has been." Marcus Aurelius stored everything in that journal: his grief, his failures, his stubborn, exhausted attempts to be good despite everything. And because he never meant for us to read it, what we got was something far more valuable than philosophy. We got the truth. Perhaps that is the greatest gift of Marcus Aurelius, not his wisdom, but his honesty. He did not pretend to have mastered life. He did not present himself as a model. He simply sat down, night after night, in a tent or a palace or a city ravaged by plague, and tried to talk himself into being a little better than he was the day before. Nearly 2,000 years later, we are still reading those private words. And they still work, not because Marcus Aurelius was an emperor, but because he was a human being, struggling with the same losses, fears, and frustrations that we struggle with today. Philosophy of Stoicism does not ask us to feel nothing. Marcus Aurelius is proof of that. Stoicism asks us to feel everything and then to choose what we do next. That's all for today's video. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more empowering content. Thanks for watching.